Hello. This video is for taking apart Colt double-action revolvers and reassembling them. In this case, a Colt Official Police 38 Special. This is a good fundamental defense weapon that was used by police departments in the United States for 70 to 90 years, even after they ceased production in 1969. It's good for defensive carry, walking in the woods or riding the tractor or four-wheeler or whatever you're doing outdoors. It's good for just something to keep in the car. It's even good for a concealed carry. Yes, it can be done. It's a fine weapon, good shooter. They're very inexpensive. They can be found at gun shows, independent sporting goods stores, maybe even your neighbor's house that has a grandfather or uncle or somebody that carried one of these or used one of these, and they're just fine weapons. And this video can be used to take apart, this information in this video can be applied to any other Colt double-action revolver of this kind, like the Python or the Detective Special or the original Colt Trooper. Their internal designs are pretty much the same. And a little bit about that is the internal design is a little bit different than what you commonly find in most revolvers made today, like modern Smith & Wessons or even older Smith & Wessons, Rugers. It's something that the average gunsmith, listen up carefully, the average gunsmith does not understand. The average gunsmith does not know how to repair these or handle these. And what's dangerous about this is many think they do, and they don't. And I'm not a gunsmith, but I found out the hard way many years ago trying to fool with these guns myself that I've made a bad situation worse, whether it's problems with the action or the timing or whatever. This gun does have a problem. There are very few gunsmiths in the country that know how to repair them, and that I know of anyway. Now, maybe you know somebody in your town who does, and you can trust them explicitly. But that's for you to decide. But just keep that in mind. Don't just take your gun to the average Joe down the street that worked on your brother's Smith & Wesson and expect him to know how to handle a Colt, because he might very well not. In fact, just for caution's sake, I would bank on that he doesn't. But there are some things that you, the gun owner, can do at home. And you can break this gun open. You can clean it. You can change the mainspring out. You can adjust the bolt. And what I mean is the bolt. That is the bolt. That drops into place to secure the cylinder in one of these little notches when action, double or single, is happening. I'll show you. Boom. It goes into place. The timing of when that bolt drops into place, here it is dropping again, boom. The timing of when it drops into place can be affected by adjusting a little part in here, and I'll discuss that a little more later. And another thing you'll need to do is, first, you'll need a screwdriver kit, and these can be had at Walmart or Academy or Brownells, just any good sporting goods store for a very reasonable price, $10 to $15, with many different heads for this screwdriver with a little magnet inside. And you'll need to find the screwdriver head that fits your screws on your gun. And I've done that already to save us time. Another little handy device is this book. It's called Colt Double Action Revolvers, a shop manual. Adjust that a little bit there. Colt Double Action Revolvers, a shop manual by Jerry Kuhnhausen. And if I'm mispronouncing his last name, I apologize in advance to him and his family, and to you gunsmiths who use him frequently and use his work. But this is an excellent book that was recommended to me many years ago to explain how these Colt revolvers function and a little bit of the history about them. It's a good book, even if you're not a gunsmith, and it's just got a fountain of information to understand what's going on and understand, as he explains, that while these guns are different and they do seem complicated and many gunsmiths do not understand them now, they're actually very simple. they are simple actions that all gunsmiths used to fundamentally understand prior to, say, 30 years ago. And unfortunately, that's not the case, as I mentioned earlier, but you can understand it just by seeing this book, and maybe this video will help you too. And that's my hope, is to understand a little bit more about these guns, because they are fine weapons. They are out there, and they are available to you on the used market. Let's get started. Again, not loaded. Let's start by taking the crane off in the cylinder. Very easy to do. By the way, make sure when you're working on this, make sure you have a wide workspace. Don't just, sit on the sofa or something like that, because there are a lot of parts in here that can fall between cushions and fall into the carpet and to who knows where land, and you'll never see them again. Oop, like that. It just fell off. But I caught it here on the table. There's a little spring down in here that you take out. There's also another little piece in there that holds the crane in place. There it is. You just slide it on off. Voila. And you take the grips off. All right. Let's put that aside here, along with these. Now this next part is very important, and I'll explain a little more when I get these screws off. Now, do not, under any circumstances, try to pry this off. This plate, you'll see, I don't know if you can see the outline here around this plate. Do not try to pry it off, because if you bend anything on it, you'll affect the function of the gun, and you'll really be in trouble there. So the way to get this off is take something blunt, like a wooden coat hanger, something that's not going to damage the frame of this gun, or in this case, I'm going to use the rubber handle of this screwdriver and just kind of tap it, and the vibration will shake it free. It's already loose there. I just touched it with my thumb. It's loose, but let's see. Whoop. Usually it comes off a lot easier, but there it goes. Okay. There you see the internal parts of the gun, or the guts, as you might call it. Let me just, probably shouldn't do this, but I'll do it anyway, just to hold this piece in place. Well, I'll cock it, just probably better. That piece needs to be held in place too. I'll cock it just so you can kind of see. Didn't really see that very good, I guess. See what's going on there? That gets caught here. You release it. Now, then you take the mainspring out. That's something you can replace very easy at this point. Now, the manual recommends you take a set of bent nose pliers and squeeze it out. I don't really need to do that, at least not for this gun. Now maybe your gun's a little different. My Detective Special is very tight on these mainsprings, and it's hard for me to do it with my fingers. But watch. I'll do it upside down because it's easier for me to see. Just slip your index finger in here, press down, holding this, kind of forcing it back this way a little bit. Let that little hook, let it unhook the deal there. And just kind of push it out. It's released, push it out, very easy. Now, another little handy tool that you might need, in this case I don't think I do because it's pretty loose, I've done it often enough. This little pin for the rebound lever, sometimes it can be very tight, especially if you've never done this. And you might need a punch to hammer it out. They're very handy. I mean, you can get these in any hardware store. Just, you know, there's a whole collection of them right here. Find the right size, but in this case, we don't need to do it. We can just kind of push it out. Find a little screwdriver head here and just kind of push it out. There it goes with the rest of the parts. Take the rebound lever out. There you go. Take the hand or paw out that moves the cylinder. Take the, whoop, nope, wrong. Take the hammer out. Take this little, wait a minute. Oop. See how that works there? Take this piece out. Then take the trigger out. Just kind of lift it, that little part there. And if all that falls apart, don't worry, you can put it back together. Very easy to do. And there you go. It's gutted. Now, you'll notice I didn't take this part out. The bolt. We talked about the bolt a moment ago. I didn't take that out. And I'm not going to because it's very hard to get back in once you do get it out. But if you do have to take it out, it's easy to do. You just take this piece, take the screwdriver head, slide it under here behind this little spring, and pull it out. And don't be sure you have your finger here, or something to catch this spring, because it'll go flying off into space, and you'll never find it. Just take it out, unscrew this little screw here, and take the bolt head out. Now, why you would do that is just you're going to take a set of these pliers, holding it in your hand. Once you remove it from the gun, do not do anything to this bolt. Don't do anything to it while it's still in the gun, and especially not while it still has this screw attached, because this screw is very small, and if you break it, you'll be looking for another one. You'll have to get what's screwed in here out of the frame and be in trouble. You don't want that. So don't do anything while this is still in the gun. Take the whole little bolt piece out and gently, I can't emphasize gently enough, do not wiggle it around, don't jerk it, don't be brutal. Just gently bend it, just barely kind of feel your way through one way or the other. Bend it one way or the other. And the reason you'll do that is because this little piece here, the rebound lever, this piece where my index finger is, catches, it's hard to show on the video, but it catches the bolt tang or tail right here hangs on this little piece and releases it for the bolt to drop into place on the cylinder. And depending on which way you bend it will affect when this rebound lever releases. So again, be very careful when you're bending this. And I don't be brutal, because this thing can break. I've never done it, but it can happen. You don't want that. This is not to scare you, just to warn you. So there's the gun broken down. And just another little note. Originally, my intention for breaking this gun down was to replace this hammer. This whole gun is known as a post-war gun, meaning made after World War II, using 1945 or 1950 as a reference point. And at that point, right about that time period, is when they started changing the Colt Official Police and all Colt double-action revolvers, and Smith & Wessons for that matter. They started changing things like the hammer and the front sight and the ejector rod cap and different little things. For me, I prefer the pre-war hammer. Excuse my phone. Now we won't be disturbed by it again. This is a pre-war hammer, and I prefer it. And I was going to try to put that in this gun, but as you see, the hole for the stem for this hammer, for the hammer stem that the hammer rides on, is too large for this hole, which is smaller. This hole is a little too small, too narrow for this stump here, as compared to this one. Now, I'm told that all these guns, and this is true of all Colt revolvers individually, that each part in this gun is made for the specific gun which it was intended. They can't just, all parts just don't fall into place, and this would appear to be one of those cases. Now, I don't see, just for discussion, I don't see why any gunsmith who knew what he was doing, emphasis on knew what he was doing, couldn't widen this hole a little bit to accommodate this gun. But that's another story for another day, and it's beyond my capability, so I'm going to put it back and worry about it another time. So let's put it back together. Here we go. Okay, we take that there. Take this, gently put it back here. Sometimes I can do it without this thing falling apart. Just get this back into place so you can see what I'm doing. Oop. There it goes. There it goes. There it goes. Okay, now place the hammer back in place. Go. Click. Then you take the where's the rebound lever? There it is. Left it over here. Guess my working space is a little too wide. Okay, now let's put the pin back in place for the rebound lever. Put the hand back in place. What I'm doing here is I'm making sure, you want to make sure that the paw is all the way in, and this point of the rebound lever is just inside this little groove back in here. There it goes, just fell into place. Because if you don't, you'll be able to get the plate back on, but the action will be, binding against the plate because the hammer will be a little bit out. And it's easy to miss that the first few times you do this. And let's see, let's put this back in, the main spring back into place. There we go. Now, just a little thought. If for whatever reason you get this mainspring back on and you find out that the paw is not all the way in, just kind of stick your screwdriver head under here and just twist it a little bit, and that'll lift the rebound lever enough for you to push it on in. Don't pry around in there, just kind of lift, be gentle. Okay, now we're going to put the plate back on. And make sure this little piece here, this little deal, lines up with this hole right there. That's called the loading gate, by the way. Oop, there it goes. Back into place. Put the screws back in. Okay. Let's put the grips back on. By the way, when you're putting these grips back on, do not over tighten this screw. Reason is, if you over tighten it, the walls of the grip, as they're pulled in by the screw, as they pull in, will cave in on themselves, and you don't want that. Another possibility to avoid that is find a little tube, plastic tube or something that you can put the screw through in between to kind of brace it. And I did that on one of my other revolvers. Maybe I'll show that in another video, but just be careful when you're doing that, whether these grips are old or new. Okay, then you take the crane. Whoop, is it not going on? What am I not doing here? There it goes. Put your little deal back in here. Just another note, thinking about this. If some of these little parts fall on the floor or whatnot, you hope it never happens, but if it does, you can get a little magnet. It's a long handle about half the length of a broomstick that has a magnet on the end, kind of like a minefield sweeper that you see in the old movies. And it'll pick up little screws and things on the floor that your human eyes just can't see. It's very useful to have. Or you could even go out and get a metal detector and find it if that happens, but hopefully it won't. Anyway, okay, the gun's back together. There we go. Colt Official Police. Again, this can be done on pythons or detective specials, and I hope this has been helpful. And gunsmiths, if you see anything you want to comment on this video, please feel free to comment. I welcome your input. Just keep things civil, or anybody has anything to say about this. I hope it's been helpful for you, and I hope I've introduced you to the world of Colt revolvers. They are fine weapons, and I thank you for viewing.